You have been bleeding power your entire life, and you never even felt the wound. Every time you raised your voice in anger, every time you explained yourself to someone who never deserved an explanation, every time you felt hurt and let it show on your face, you gave something away, something irreplaceable, something most human beings will live and die without ever understanding the true value of. It did not feel like weakness. It felt honest. It felt human. It felt like the right thing to do. But that feeling, that instinct to react, to respond, to release, has been the silent thief of your authority since the moment you first learned to feel. You were never taught this. No school ever placed this lesson in front of you. No teacher ever stood before a classroom and said, "Your emotions, uncontrolled, are your greatest enemy." Instead, you were told the opposite. You were told to express yourself, to be authentic, to let people see who you are. And so you did. And so they watched. And so they learned you. Every reaction you gave them was a map of your fears, a map of your insecurities, a map of exactly where to press to make you collapse. You smiled when you wanted approval. You argued when you felt threatened. You went quiet when you felt shame. You became loud when you felt invisible. And every single time, the people around you, whether consciously or not, filed away that information. They catalogued your triggers. They memorized your breaking points. And in doing so, they gained power over you that you handed them freely, wrapped in the currency of your unguarded emotion. This is not a small loss. This is not something that happened once or twice. This is a pattern that has been repeating itself across every relationship, every room, every conversation you have ever had. The man who shows his anger becomes predictable. The man who shows his desperation becomes manipulable. The man who shows his pain becomes a target. And you, without realizing it, have been showing all three. But tonight, that ends. Tonight, you will understand what Machiavelli understood, what the most dangerous and composed individuals throughout all of human history understood, that your emotions are not your identity, they are your vulnerability, and until you learn to kill them before they kill your power, you will never, not once, operate at the level you were designed for. The invisible erosion has been happening long enough. The unconscious bleeding of your authority ends here. Tonight, you will understand the truth that most people will carry to their graves without ever discovering. There is something you possess that is more valuable than money, more powerful than status, more dangerous than any weapon ever forged by human hands. It is your emotional response, and you have been giving it away to anyone who asked for it. Think about what you are actually surrendering every time you react emotionally in public. You are not simply showing how you feel. You are revealing who controls you. You are demonstrating, in real time, that the external world has direct access to your internal world. That someone else's words, actions, or silence can reach inside you and move you without your permission. This is not strength. This is a live demonstration of your weakest architecture. The most powerful currency in any human interaction is not intelligence. It is not wealth. It is not physical dominance. It is composure. It is the visible, undeniable, almost terrifying ability to remain completely unmoved while the world around you demands a reaction. When you give this away, when you react, when you explode, when you collapse, when you plead, you are spending the most valuable currency you possess on people and moments that have not earned it. Consider what your emotional reaction actually does in the mind of another person. It tells them they matter enough to move you. It tells them they have found the mechanism. It tells them they are significant enough to alter your state of being. And once someone knows they can move you, they will never stop trying. The men and women who have held real power throughout history, not the loudest, not the most celebrated, but the ones who endured, who outlasted, who ultimately prevailed, they all shared one defining characteristic. Not brilliance, not wealth, not connections, stillness, an almost inhuman ability to absorb provocation without releasing it, to feel the emotion without becoming it, to let the wave crash against them and simply remain standing. This is what you have been misusing. This is what you have been spending on unworthy moments, unworthy people, unworthy provocations. Your emotional composure is your greatest power, and most people will waste their entire lives never understanding that truth. They will react. They will justify their reactions. They will call it passion, or honesty, or authenticity, and they will wonder, quietly, why they never seem to gain lasting ground. You now know the reason. The question is what you will do with that knowledge. More than 500 years ago, a man sat in a small room in Florence, Italy, stripped of everything he had worked for, watching the world through the eyes of someone who had studied power up close and lost it. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli, and in that silence, in that exile, he did something that no philosopher before him had dared to do. He did not write about power as it should be. He wrote about power as it is. He watched princes rise. He watched them fall. He studied the mechanics beneath the surface, the invisible forces that separated those who held authority from those who crumbled beneath it. And the pattern he identified was not what the world expected. The rulers who endured were not the most righteous. They were not the most loved. They were not the most expressive or the most emotionally available. They were the most controlled. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But behind this famous line lies a deeper truth that most people miss. Fear is not generated by aggression. Fear, the deep, lasting, involuntary kind, is generated by composure, by unpredictability, by the terrifying sense that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, the man across from you will not break. This is what made the great rulers great. Not their armies, not their gold, their ability to sit across from chaos and show nothing. Machiavelli studied Cesare Borgia, a man considered by many to be the perfect prince. What made Borgia dangerous was not his willingness to act violently. It was his absolute emotional control. He could smile at a man he intended to destroy. He could show warmth toward those he had already condemned. He could absorb insult, swallow betrayal, and move forward without ever revealing the depth of what he felt. This is the ancient template for power. It was not invented by Machiavelli. He simply observed it, documented it, and handed it to those willing to learn. The lesson is 500 years old. It applies today with the same force it applied in the courts of Renaissance Italy. Those who control their emotional expression control the room. Those who control the room control the outcome. Those who control the outcome hold power. You are not learning something new tonight. You are being reintroduced to a truth that history has confirmed across centuries, across cultures, across every domain of human interaction, again and again and again. Power does not come from expression. Power comes from restraint. This is where most people fail. This is where most people have always failed. They believe that power is demonstrated through action, through the ability to speak loudly, argue convincingly, respond sharply, defend relentlessly. But this belief is precisely what keeps them weak. True power is not found in what you release. It is found in what you contain. Consider what happens when a man cannot control his emotions. His anger tells others where his wound is. His laughter tells others when he needs approval. His sadness tells others how to break him. His excitement tells others what he values, and therefore, what can be taken from him. An emotional man is a readable man. A readable man is a controllable man. Power is quiet. Power is selective. Power is controlled. The principle is simple, devastatingly simple. The man who reacts has already lost. The moment you allow your internal state to become visible, the moment you show your hand, you transfer authority from yourself to whoever is watching. This is not about becoming cold. It is not about becoming heartless. It is about understanding that your internal world is your sovereign territory. No one has the right to enter it, uninvited. And every emotional reaction is an open door you have chosen to leave unlocked. Power is the decision to close that door. To feel the emotion fully because feeling it is inevitable and human, but to refuse to perform it. To refuse to give it as a gift to those who would use it against you. The greatest misunderstanding about emotional control is that it requires the absence of emotion. It does not. It requires the mastery of expression. The most powerful individuals feel everything. They feel the anger. They feel the hurt. They feel the frustration. But they have trained themselves through discipline, through repetition, through absolute commitment to their own authority, to process that emotion internally rather than discharge it externally. They feel the storm. The world sees only the stillness. This is what you must become. Not a man without emotion. A man whose emotions are invisible to the world. A man who has built an interior life so strong, so disciplined, so controlled, that no external force can crack the surface. Power is quiet. Power is patient. Power is the decision made in the moment of greatest provocation to say nothing, to show nothing, to give nothing. This is the principle. Everything else builds from here. When you kill your emotional reactions, when you stop performing your inner world for the audience around you, something remarkable begins to happen inside the minds of others. They become uncomfortable, not immediately, but slowly, inevitably. The human mind is built for pattern recognition. When someone speaks to you and you respond emotionally, when you react, when you rise, when you fall, their brain records the pattern. Stimulus, response. The cycle is complete. They feel in control. They feel they understand you. But when you stop reacting, when the expected response does not come, their brain short-circuits. They pushed, nothing moved. They provoked, nothing surfaced. They waited for the confirmation that they had landed their blow, and instead, they received silence. Stillness, the quiet, unreadable surface of a man who cannot be moved. This creates something powerful in their psychology, doubt. Not doubt about you, doubt about themselves. They begin to wonder, did I say the wrong thing? Did I misread the situation? Does he even care? And this uncertainty, this sudden vacuum where their confidence used to live, begins to transfer power invisibly across the room. They came to diminish you. They leave, questioning themselves. This is the dark psychology of emotional restraint. It does not require aggression. It does not require confrontation. It requires only the refusal to participate in the emotional theater they have designed for you. Obsession follows. When people cannot read you, when they cannot map your interior world, they become consumed with the attempt. They replay conversations, searching for the signal they missed. They try new approaches, new provocations, new angles, all designed to finally get a reaction, to finally feel that they have found you. And you give them nothing. Not from cruelty, from power. The perceived authority shift is immediate and lasting. In every interaction where one person remains emotionally controlled and another does not, the controlled person commands the frame. They become the reference point. They set the temperature of the room. They become the object of fascination rather than the subject of manipulation. Your stillness will terrify people, not because it is aggressive, but because it is unreadable. And unreadable people cannot be controlled. This is where transformation begins. You stop reacting in the moment of provocation. You start processing in the silence after it. You stop wearing your emotional state on your face like a public announcement. You start treating your interior world as classified information. The practical applications are specific. They are repeatable, and they will change the way every single interaction in your life unfolds. First, you choose silence over immediate response. When someone says something designed to provoke you, when someone pushes, insults, challenges, or diminishes, you do not respond immediately. You pause. Not because you have nothing to say, but because the pause itself communicates something they did not expect, that you are not governed by their timeline, that your response will come when you decide, not when they demand it. This pause is not passivity, it is authority. Second, you remove the visible performance of emotion. When you feel anger, your face stays neutral. When you feel hurt, your posture stays composed. When you feel excitement, your voice stays level. This is not dishonesty, this is discipline. The internal experience and the external expression are two separate things, and power lies in the gap between them. Third, you practice strategic withdrawal. There are conversations that are designed to drain you. There are interactions engineered to extract your reaction. The most powerful response to these situations is not engagement, it is absence. Not dramatic absence. Silent, composed, unapologetic withdrawal. You simply stop participating, and your departure, quiet and unexplained, is louder than anything you could have said. Fourth, you become selective in your engagement. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every provocation deserves a response. Not every invitation deserves your presence. The man who responds to everything signals that he is available to everyone, and what is freely available is never valued. Become selective. Let some things go unanswered. Let some rooms go without your presence. Let some people go without your reaction. Your selectivity communicates your standards, and your standards communicate your power. There are people who will try to break this discipline, and you must know them before they reach you. The provocateur. This person survives on your reaction. Their entire strategy depends on your emotional response. They poke, they prod. They make small cutting remarks designed to look harmless but land precisely. They are not interested in dialogue. They are not interested in truth. They are interested in finding the crack. The moment you react, they have won. The moment you remain still, they have nothing. They will try harder. They will escalate. And eventually, when no reaction comes, they will collapse inward, consumed by the failure of their own strategy. The emotional manipulator. This person weaponizes your care. They do not attack directly. They present themselves as wounded, as victimized, as desperately in need, and they wait for your compassion to override your composure. They have learned that empathy is the back door to emotional control. They enter through your kindness and leave carrying your authority. You must learn to separate compassion from compliance. You can care without being moved. You can acknowledge pain without absorbing it. The energy drainer. This person does not attack. They simply exhaust. Every interaction with them costs more than it returns. They pull your attention, your time, your emotional reserves, and they give back noise. Drama. Endless cycles of crisis and chaos. They are not malicious. They are consuming. And consumption, sustained long enough, destroys power just as effectively as any direct assault. The mirror breaker. This person is perhaps the most dangerous. They know you. They have studied you across time and proximity. They know which words reach you, which silences hurt you, which references break your composure. They are not strangers. They are often the closest people in your life. And when they decide to use what they know, your discipline must be absolute. Because the most powerful person to remain unmoved by is the one who knows exactly where to aim. Identify these types, name them, and when you encounter them, activate your training rather than your instincts. Your emotions will resist this transformation. They were built to express. They were conditioned, across decades of experience, to demand release. When you feel anger, every nerve in your body will push for expression. When you feel pain, every instinct will demand acknowledgement. When you feel joy, your face will want to betray you. This is the nature of emotion. It wants out, and your discipline must be stronger. Emotional mastery is not a gift. It is not a personality trait. It is a skill developed through repetition, refined through failure, hardened through deliberate and sustained practice. The first stage is awareness. You cannot control what you have not yet learned to observe. Begin by watching yourself, in real time. When the anger rises, notice it. Name it internally. This is anger. This is the urge to react. Do not judge it. Simply observe it. The moment you can observe an emotion, you create distance between the feeling and the expression. And in that distance, power lives. The second stage is the pause. Between stimulus and response, create space. Even 1 second of deliberate delay is an act of profound discipline. That 1 second is where you choose who you are, the reactive man or the controlled man. The third stage is redirection. The emotion does not disappear. It cannot, but it can be moved. Instead of releasing it upward into your expression, your voice, your face, redirect it inward. Let it fuel your composure rather than crack it. Let it sharpen your thinking rather than cloud it. The anger that would have made you volatile becomes the focus that makes you dangerous. The fourth stage is the practice of stillness in escalating situations. Start small. In low-stakes moments, practice holding your expression neutral. Practice slowing your breath when tension rises. Practice responding 1 beat slower than you normally would. Build the muscle. Strengthen the architecture. Because the moment the high-stakes situation arrives, and it will, you will not rise to the occasion. You will fall to the level of your preparation. Emotional mastery is not suppression. It is sovereignty. You are not eliminating the emotion. You are deciding that no one outside of you will ever have access to it without your permission. You are no longer the person who reacted. That version of you, the one who gave away their composure freely, who let their face speak before their mind decided, who participated in every emotional theater they were cast in, that person is behind you now. You see differently now. When someone attempts to provoke you, you do not see an attack. You see a test. And you understand that every test failed by your composure is power transferred to the person who administered it. So you pass every test. Not because you are afraid of failing, because you understand what passing costs and what failing costs, and the mathematics are absolute. You think differently now. Where once you thought, how do I respond to this, you now think, is this worth responding to at all? Where once you asked, what do I feel, you now ask, what does this feeling reveal? And who should be allowed to see it? The questions have changed. And changed questions produce changed decisions. And changed decisions, sustained over time, produce a changed life. You operate differently now. You walk into rooms and do not announce yourself through expression. You let your stillness speak. You let your composure communicate what 100 words could not. You let the simple, undeniable fact of your unreadable presence shift the temperature of every space you occupy. You have become someone who cannot be controlled. Not because the world stopped trying, it will never stop trying, but because the mechanisms through which control was once possible have been systematically dismantled. Your reactions were the levers, and you have removed them. This is not arrogance, this is architecture. You have rebuilt yourself from the foundation. You have chosen, deliberately and completely, to operate at a different level than the vast majority of human beings will ever choose to inhabit. Most people will remain reactive their entire lives. They will call it passion, they will call it authenticity, they will call it being real, and they will wonder quietly. In the moments of stillness, they rarely allow themselves why the controlled ones always seem to occupy a different plane of existence. You now know why. You are no longer among the reactive. You have crossed, and there is no going back to the version of yourself that did not understand what you now understand. From this moment forward, everything changes. Not tomorrow, not after you have slept on it, not after you have thought about it more carefully or waited for the right circumstances or tested whether the principle holds in your specific situation. Now, this moment. This is where the old pattern ends and the new architecture begins. You no longer perform your emotions for an audience. You no longer hand out your reactions like currency to people who have not earned the right to move you. You no longer allow the external world uninvited access to your internal world. You protect your composure the way a fortress protects its interior, not out of fear, but out of understanding. You understand what is inside worth protecting. You understand what it costs when the walls are breached. And you have decided, permanently and without apology, that the cost is one you will no longer pay. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. The great rulers, the enduring powers, the men who outlasted every challenge and every enemy, they were not the most expressive. They were the most contained. History did not remember the loudest men. It remembered the most controlled. You carry that lineage now. You carry the understanding that has separated the powerful from the powerless across every era of human civilization. Not as a philosophy, as a practice. Not as an idea, as a discipline you build every single day. Your emotions will still rise. That is not failure. The failure would be in performing them. The failure would be in handing them over. The success, the quiet, invisible, compounding success, is in feeling the storm and showing only stillness. This is who you are now. This is the identity you have stepped into tonight. Not because someone gave it to you, because you chose it, because you understood what was at stake, because you were willing to do what most people are not willing to do, to trade the comfort of reaction for the power of restraint. From this moment forward, you are in control. If you understand this, if this truth has reached you the way it was meant to reach you, drop one comment, I am in control. And if you are ready for more lessons in power, psychology, and mastery, subscribe, because this is only the beginning of what you are going to understand about yourself and the world around you. The work continues, and so do you.